Okay, the shoulder press is one of my all-time favorite exercises. In fact, back in the day, it was my absolute favorite exercise. There's something really unique about the shoulder press where it has that fun factor that the bench press has with like an added layer of like strength and badassery added to it because now you're pressing over your head. If you think about it, the over the head movement has kind of been like the icon symbol of strength forever. Superman and other comic book heroes lifting massive things over their head. So there's just something about it that's as fun as a bench and even slightly more badass and a real show of strength because of how challenging it is. So in this video, I want to break down the strongest shoulder presses of all time. So I'm gonna break this video into two halves. First half, the strongest seated shoulder press of all time, which is my all-time favorite version actually. I think just because you can really dig your body into the seat, you have the seat supporting your whole torso, so you can really get the most out of it. That's the most amount of weight you're gonna be able to push in a strict shoulder press position is seated. And then the second half is gonna be the standing OHP, the internet's favorite. I think largely that is everyone's favorite movement, besides me, I'm the minority here, but the standing overhead press, and we're gonna be looking at strictly the strict press. Meaning no push press, no using momentum, no squatting down or bending of the knees at all. So if you like this content, please subscribe. My name is Nick Wright. Welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy and stick around. So I'm gonna start this list off with our boy, Ronald Dean Coleman. Ronnie Coleman, former 8-time Mr. Olympia. He is famous for his big lifts, right? The squatting 800 pounds for 2, deadlifting 800 pounds for 2, etc. No one talks about his shoulder press. I think because they glazed over it so quickly in his original training DVDs, it wasn't really focused on, but he has an insane shoulder press. We see him pressing 315 pounds for an easy set of 12. And of course, Ronnie used partial reps. We got to take that into account. Not a full lockout. That was just a style of training. He was bodybuilding. He was trying to focus on time under tension, but still, those are complete enough reps to where this is stupidly impressive. And he's handling it so dang easily. If you do the math in a 1-rep max calculator, 315 for 12 comes out to around 440-ish pounds. And those 1-rep max calculators, they're kind of generalizations. They're not the most accurate. However, in my own personal experience, when I was bench pressing around 425, 430 pounds for a 1-rep max, I was able to press 315 for a set of 10. I'd done that a couple of different times, but each time 10 was the most I could get. I could not squeeze out an 11th rep with 315. And my max was about 425, 430 did get locked out, but my butt came off the bench. I actually believe that if I were strong enough to get another 2 reps out of 315, I probably would be benching around 440. So I actually have no problem believing his 1-rep shoulder press and max probably would have been around 440-ish pounds. Without a doubt, it would have been over 400 pounds. And this is, again, a bodybuilder, not a powerlifter or a strongman. Number 2 on the list is one of my all-time favorite feats of strength for shoulders, ever. And it's a video I found like 15 years ago, and I don't even know the lifter's name. His channel's long gone. Fortunately, somebody re-uploaded it, titled Some Fat Guy Presses 405 for 5 and 455 for 3. This lifter, I believe his first name is Casey. I don't know his last name. If you know, please let me know in the comments below. He used to have a YouTube channel that I stumbled upon. I want to say it was something like The Masked Bencher, but I could be remembering that wrong. He was a strong competitive powerlifter. He competed equipped. And I remember he had a bunch of training videos of him moving around like 800, 900 pounds in the gym with a bench shirt. It was crazy. But he had some really good raw strength as well. And he had these 2 videos that I found of him seated shoulder pressing 405 for 5 easily. And then another video of him shoulder pressing 455 for 3 easily, which is insane. That's more than I've ever benched. That's a good squat for a lot of people. Absolutely mind-blowing. And he did it on one of these old school traditional shoulder pressing sets, meaning it's the fixed seat with the fixed backrest that's almost 90 degrees straight up and down. He also did it in a pretty unique way. He used a really, really wide grip. Kind of the style you would use with a bench shirt, benching with a bench shirt, but it was, of course, raw, just in a t-shirt. Number 3 on the list is an absolute monster. One of the strongest shoulder presses in human history, Derek Kendall. If you guys remember Derek Kendall, he was massive around the 2013, 14, and 15 era. He trained a lot with the Lillybridge family. He was featured in the Animal Cage at Expos quite a bit. He repped out 405 for 14 reps, 14 straight reps with 405 pounds. In another video, he repped out 455 pounds for an easy set of 4 reps. And then in 2 different occasions, at least on video, he shoulder pressed 500 pounds. Seated, strict shoulder press, 500 pounds, and did it on 2 different occasions. One was in the animal booth at an expo, another was at his gym. Absolutely insane strength. Number 4 on this list is Andrew Richard, who we're gonna get into later on in this video. When it comes to the standing overhead press, that is a name to pay attention to. But when it comes to seated pressing, this man banged out 20 reps with 405. 405 pounds, 184 kilos for 20 reps seated, and he did it with ease. And that's just getting started. I'll get into his stats a little bit later on in this video. Next on this list is Larry Wheels with a 515-pound seated shoulder press, and this is one of the most impressive ones on this list for a couple of reasons. One, it is the strongest pound for pound shoulder press on this list of 500+ pound shoulder pressers. 515 pounds done at under 300 pounds body weight. Larry was, I believe, around the 275 pound neighborhood, give or take a little bit, at the time when he lifted this. So pound for pound, that is the strongest shoulder press ever done over 500 pounds. It's also the deepest range of motion we've seen on all of our 500+ pound shoulder pressers. Larry brought the bar down to the top of his chest before blasting off to a lockout. So a full range of motion, the pound for pound strongest on this entire list, and the 3rd strongest shoulder press outright. Next on this list is the famous Julius Maddox, the all-time world record holder for the raw bench press, benching almost 800 pounds raw. Julius recently smashed a big 525-pound shoulder press, and that was just this month, making him, for a little bit, the strongest shoulder presser in the world, until our boy, the Gym Reaper, Joshua Baker, stepped in and smoked 530 pounds. And he did this literally just the other day. I had this video all finished and wrapped up. I open Instagram, I see Josh post this, I gotta update this video. 530 pounds is officially the strongest seated shoulder press we have seen in history without spotter assistance, period. Now I wanna give a huge honorable mention to the Iron Biby, who holds multiple world records in things like the log press and the axle press, and it's just an all-around strong monster of a human being, and he actually attempted 602 on a seated shoulder press. He did it with an axle bar, and he did it. I mean, he smoked it pretty good. Now, he had a spotter touching it the whole time. That's the only reason I'm not counting it on this list. And people can call that harsh, or they can argue that the spotter maybe didn't do too much. I mean, granted, the spotter was not a big guy. If the Iron Biby could not handle 602 at all, there's nothing the spotter would have done. The strength is definitely not a question for the Iron Biby, but is he strong enough to strict shoulder press 602 seated totally by himself? We don't know, because the spotter was touching it. If you're familiar with the gym at all, you know it does not take much help for a spotter to boost a lift. I could literally just use my fingers and help assist a guy in a lift that he would otherwise fail. Now, before I get into the second half of this video, I have a really, really cool sponsor I want to share with you guys. And it's cool because it's something I've used for the last like 8 years. And I actually reached out to them to see if they wanted to work with me for this video. And it's something that is important to literally everybody. And that is Phenomenal Sleep on a great mattress. Nest Bedding is the brand I've used obsessively for almost a decade. They're a small family-owned company out in California, which means they do not jack their prices up like the major commercial companies do. They put a lot into their mattress design, so you're getting quality mattresses that match the quality of a $5,000 mattress for a fraction of the price. And these are really cool. So this is the Sparrow Signature Hybrid Mattress, queen size, medium firmness. The top fabric is a thermic phase change material called a cooling cover. It's breathable and helps keep you cool, and it's laid over a tufted pillow top cushioning. Below that, you have the comfort layer. This is the customizable part. This is a gel-infused memory foam. The gel infusion allows more firmness, stiffness, and it helps pull heat from your body to keep you cooler. This has 3 different levels of firmness. It has soft, medium, and firm. And what's cool about it is if you order, say, a soft and then realize you want something more firm, you can swap out the firmness layer. They will send you a free firmness layer, and you simply unzip the top portion, pull yours out, insert the new one, and you are good to go. And that is for lifetime. 1 free exchange for the entire life of the mattress. The mattress itself can be exchanged for free within the first year of buying it if you want to switch it up and change what you got. Below the comfort layer, you have 4 supportive layers. There's a responsive foam layer, a denser foam layer, a pocketed coil system which adds for more bounce and breathability in the mattress, and lastly a based foam pad for the coils to stay on, which helps them last longer. It preserves longevity in the entire mattress. These mattresses are designed to last for a minimum of 10 years or more. Love them. I put the link for Nest Bedding in the info box below. I hope you check it out and enjoy it. And now onto the internet's favorite, the standing overhead press, the strict standing overhead press. Strict meaning no momentum, no push press action. Starting off with the legend Dmitry Klokov. Dmitry is a legend in Olympic lifting, and he first cleaned the weight up into a standing position and then strict pressed 357 pounds, clean as a whistle. Next we have Alvin Roswell, a lesser known lifter than he ought to be because Alvin is impressive. Strict pressing 430 pounds over his head. Alvin has also repped out a double with 405, which is incredible. Next, we have one of my favorite lifters to watch, Daniel Ryjev, an animal who pressed 440 pounds over his head. Now, Larry Wheels also achieved the big 440 pound standing overhead press, weighing more than Daniel, giving Daniel the pound for pound crown here. Eddie Hall stepped it up a notch when he strict pressed 476 pounds on an axle bar after wrestling it up into a standing pressing position from the ground first. This was done in a strongman competition. I mentioned the Iron Bibby before and how he held a bunch of records. Well, one of them was beating Eddie Hall's press in the same exact exercise and smoking a 478.5 pound strict press on the axle bar, also after wrestling it into a standing position first. Now, I mentioned earlier to keep an eye out for Andrew Richard. He was important in this conversation, and this is why he has a massive 525 pound standing overhead press, absolutely dominating the standing OHP arena. And if you follow his Instagram, he has a very entertaining page. He has crazy lifts of him doing behind the neck presses with disrespectful amounts of weight, standing skull crushers with unreal amounts of weight. Very, very powerful dude. So 525 pound standing overhead press by Andrew Richard, rivaled only by the great Iron Bibby, yet again rearing his head, with a 529 pound standing overhead press. And this is it. This is the end of our list. The Iron Bibby doing 529 is the heaviest standing overhead press, at least I've been able to find on the internet. Iron Bibby, if I'm being very picky, did use a little more momentum in his press than what I would like for a super strict press. If I'm being picky, you zoom up on his knees, there's a little bit of breaking at the knees before he pushes. If you want to be picky, you can say that is kind of leaning into push press territory. Very minimally, of course. It's minuscule. It's almost barely even noticeable. It's still very much strict overall. But if you want to be picky, you could say that's a little bit of momentum. Maybe it's not a fully strict press, in which case Andrew Richard would take the crown with 525 strict press. But the more I went back and rewatched everybody's footage, like even Larry Wheels with 440 broke at the knees a little bit. It's really, really impossible to find somebody who's totally stiff as a statue with this kind of weight. And the more I scrutinized everybody's form, the more you could pick out tiny, tiny little threads of an argument that made it so, well, how are you gonna exclude the Iron Bibby, but then not red flag this guy or that guy? So at the end of the day, I decided, you know what? It's overall pretty darn strict. I'm going to include it. I'm going to specify that I noticed some knee movement. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to judge. Is Andrew Richard the #1 dog in this with 525, or is the Iron Bibby strict enough to count with 529? Either which way, to wrap this video up, the strongest seated shoulder press ever is 530 pounds. The strongest standing overhead press is 525 or 529 pounds, depending on which one you include. Either way, everybody seems to be pressing around 530 over their head, standing or seated. If you like this video, please subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.